Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by StrikeForceEnergy.com. Put down the water and grab a fucking drink.
Welcome to a very special crossover episode of Drinking Bros. As you know, we've had Black Hearted podcast that was up for a little bit and then went down for a little bit due to unforeseen circumstances in the business world. Jared and Evan and Matt got extremely busy with Black Rifle Coffee. As you know, it's everywhere. It's blown up and everything else. But for 2018, they are bringing it back. They're bringing back. You're bringing black. Who cares? That could be bringing black. They're bringing back Black Hearted underneath a new name. They're calling it the Launch Code. They're going to stick to their military roots, and they're going to talk to a bunch of veteran entrepreneurs and try to help their businesses grow. Hopefully, they can learn something from them, and vice versa, and they can share their experiences with you. As you know, a friend of the show, Bert Kuntz, hashtag Bert from TV, who's one of our faves, one of our best friends in real life, has had a popular company called Peacemaker Trading Co. They're relaunching that company into a company called Bison Union. And they're just tweaking some of the logos a little bit because they're going bigger. They're looking for more of a Patagonia, North Face, worldwide vibe. And I think they can get there. It's one of my favorite apparel companies out there, and I'm a huge fan. So tonight we're gonna introduce you to a new podcast called Launch Code that's Evan and Jared are doing specifically. That should be really getting ramped up here for 2018. But at first, we got some sponsors before we get into that show, and the sponsors tonight are look. You know that Strikeforce Energy is at the top of this bitch. Strikeforce Energy is the premier energy drink company in the land. You don't need the can anymore. You can kick the can, kids. You can get rid of Monster. You can get rid of Red Bull. All of that shit. You can throw it out the window. All you need is some Strikeforce Energy from StrikeForceEnergy.com. They come in 4 amazing flavors: original, lemon, orange, make America grape again. And we're big fans of these guys. Make a really great stocking stuffer. Look, a box of 10 is like $9.95. It's almost like fucking stealing it from those guys, especially with the promo code. The promo code is Drinking Bros for 20% off. They ship everywhere in the entire world, and they get a 750 milliliter bottle that can sit on your bar top or countertop. You can just boom, pop a couple squirts in and fucking go. Go to StrikeForceEnergy.com, type in the promo code Drinking Bros for 20% off. They ship everywhere in the entire world, and they got that subscription of the month club, which we all have. Next up, we've got CarnivoreClub.co. Ooh, big fan of CarnivoreClub.co. CarnivoreClub.co is a meat of the month club. I'm actually eating them as we speak. There is a reason why at the top of this show it was a little marbled. Got a little marbles in this old mouth. I've been eating fucking salami all goddamn night. And that is, by the way, no lie, actually. Because let's face it, Thanksgiving doesn't really end until today. So I can throw in a couple LBs the night before, you know what I'm saying, before I go back on that diet. But CarnivoreClub.co, this is what you need to get for that carnivore in your life, that dude in your life, dad, brother, fucking cousin, just beef fry, just some beef fry. Get them a box of meats. It is the goddamn most tasting meats. It's the best tasting meat experience you'll have in your entire life. The guys at Carnivore Club scour the country for the absolute best makers of cured meats. You can select 4 to 6 of their best selections. They pack them in an unbelievably nice box that ships right to your door. Rain, shine, hurricane, what the fuck ever. It will literally be there. You might ask yourself, Ross, what am I getting from this? We're talking about a small batch dry cured bacon from South Carolina. They've got some pasture raised Berkshire prosciutto from Iowa, They've also got some duck salami from California. They've got 1 million of these goddamn things. I got 6 salamis in my last box. This isn't your grocery store deli. Guys at Carnivore Club, they work with small artisans all across the country that make the best fucking meats on the planet. In preparation for Christmas this year, they're giving your family a fucking, is this right? I gotta even read this. 15% off. 15% off at Carnivore Club? No way. The promo code is Drunk Santa for carnivoreclub.co. That's a .co. Drunk Santa. You can customize for 1 to 12 months too, because you can get a subscription to this shit too. I have it. It's fucking awesome. They've got total wise, it's about 2 pounds of meat total in a box. So when it shows up, it's not like, oh hey man, I'm just getting like something to snack on. It's a good goddamn day full of meats, is what it is. About 2 pounds worth of meat. Go to carnivoreclub.co, type in the promo code Drunk Santa for 15% off. Big fan of carnivoreclub.co. Next up, we've got ghostbed.com. Ooh, sleep so good, it's scary. The other night I was sleeping in my ghost bed. True story. I woke up and I was having sex with the ghost of Whitney Houston. Wait, that's Bobby Brown. It's Bobby Brown. But I think if you go back and read the police report, Bobby Brown was in a ghost bed when he fucked Whitney Houston. So what does all this mean for you? It means if you want a shot at fucking a dead Whitney Houston, go get a ghost bed. Maybe you can fuck a dead Marilyn Monroe. Whoever's dead that suits your fancy. Jessica Tandy, boom. The old lady from Driving Miss Daisy, congratulations. You could dream her up. She might be in the ghost bed. I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is this. It is the finest mattress on the goddamn planet. I've got 2 of those motherfuckers in my house. I love them shits. So does, like my relatives. They never used to visit this much. Now they come fucking twice a goddamn month. I think it's because of the bed. I almost feel like just strapping it to the roof of their car and saying, hey, get the fuck out of here. Here's the bed. This is why you keep visiting me. Go to ghostbed.com/drinking bros. You get $50 off a mattress. Also, you get 2 free pillows, which is fucking incredible. The pillows are actually like the dope jam. I have like 8 of those. Here's what happened. I ended up buying an extra mattress, and then I ended up buying like, I think 4 extra pillows. I have 6 of those goddamn things now. It's like a Brady Bunch in my bed full of ghost bed pillows. Big fan of Ghost Bed. Go to ghostbed.com/drinking bros or type in the promo code Drinking Bros for $50 off and 2 free pillows. It's incredible. Next up, we've got warfightertobacco.com. Whew. If you don't got them, go get them and smoke them. I got a fine little email here from Scott Jansen and the boys. What you don't realize, every time I see the word boys, even though it has an S on the end, I say it with a Z. Fun fact, I say it with a fucking Z. Scott Jansen and the boys, they're not doing it anymore in Dominican Republic. What Scott Jansen told me, he goes, Dominican Republic is so last year, and it is. It is. I don't know anybody going to the DR anymore. I just don't. Their new cigars on the website, they are a brand new Nicaraguan blend. We don't need them shits anymore from the DR. Nicaraguan, that blend is one of the finest there is. That's where the new cigars are coming from. They're available in 4 new sizes: Robusto, Toro, Double Corona, and Rocco, a.k.a. Big as Fuck. Rocco's one of the co-owners as well. They're 100% combat veteran owned. The new Victory cigar is a super premium cigar. They got to celebrate life and the victories in this life. Grab one of those. I have a Victory once a week. Maybe I should have a cigar once a week. I don't know if my wife would dig it, but whatever. There's nothing like going up to your sleeping wife and then blowing cigar smoke in her face right when she's sleeping and just saying, I love you. I love you. And she's going to be like, she'll start coughing all over your face. And then she'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm blowing Victory in your face. I'm blowing Victory right in your fucking face. Now go back to sleep, lamb chop. I love you. That's what you could say. Their Victory cigars are new. They are amazing, and you should probably get them for your mouth hole. They also have Warfighter coffee called Warfighter Joe. And you might ask yourself, Ross, that's weird. You guys work with Black Rifle Coffee. All your best friends own a company called Black Rifle Coffee. This is a special new Black Rifle Coffee blend, Warfighter Joe. And it's coming to you straight from Black Rifle, so you know it's good and you can trust it. Not a bunch of fucking rebaggers there. Their website is completely redesigned and includes a new dealer sign-up and locator. So if you're looking for cigars in your area, they will tell you where to go and get it. Go to warfightertobacco.com. Type in the promo code Drinkin' Bros for 10% off. Big fan of warfightertobacco.com. Again, Drinkin' Bros for 10% off. Now, we're going to get you back into the new show. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Bert Kuntz and the story of his brand new endeavor. Give it a listen.
Well.
Yeah. And we're back for good now, guys.
We are back for good. We've got a ton of great content stacked up for everybody. Today's show is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. Yeah, always. We're also changing the name of Black Hearted to the Launch Code Podcast.
Yeah, so with the name change, we've kind of really found our roots in this show, being very business oriented, and the goal of the show being to help future entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs in starting out a business and learning from the guests that we have and the experiences that we've had. So keeping with our military roots, we're calling it the Launch Code because it's about launching a business, an idea, launching into rapid growth and then sustaining that growth and how to do it.
That's right. So today's episode, we're going to have Bert Kuntz from the formerly known as Peacemaker Trading and now known as Bison Union. We're going to talk about what he did in his, previously, because he was a little bit older when he joined the military. So before he joined the military, while he was in the military, his transition, what he does now, and we'll ask him a few keys to his success. So without further ado, Bert Kuntz, tell us where he came from.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I've listened to every episode, and they are great. I think you guys are doing a world of good for if anybody listens or watches some of the ones you film, but listens to the podcast, and you started episode 1 of Black Hearted into the new Launch Code Podcast. It is literally a blueprint of how to start a business or your own LLC with $1,500, and it goes way into the day-to-day business. Again, if you listen or watch the podcast, I can't thank you guys enough for what you're doing. It's helped us immensely.
And we're going to be kicking off your show in the new year, right? All My Heroes Are Cowboys?
Yeah, that is not correct. That will not.
Are we not doing that?
No, that is.
I thought that was a real thing.
No.
You don't want your own show?
We're going to have our own podcast, but it's not going to be called All My Heroes Are Cowboys.
What's it going to be called?
It's going to be called All My Heroes Are Cowboys.
All my new
I just don't want you to be correct.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be a fun show. Who's on that show with you?
Once we're relocating, formerly Peacemaker, Bison Union is going to be moving back to Texas, our headquarters, and that's where we started. And when we get down there, we're gonna fire this thing up, and JT is going to help us do a podcast down there as well. And the podcast is going to be more geared towards working class Americans.
I heard your show, though, is we're all going to be wearing these headsets.
You are, but you're going to have a cowboy hat on, and with the headsets built into the cowboy hats. I'm going to have those personally made.
Okay, you guys. Let's get into this.
So, Peacemaker.
No. I need to know where you came from. I need to know what you did in the Army.
Oh gosh,
I want to go back, man. Just give us some background, dude. We got to have some background to this narrative.
So background on me, I probably, and people that grew up with me would probably say the same thing when they hear my name. They probably go, is that guy still alive? Is he in prison? I did not like school. I did not like sitting in the same building for 8 hours a day playing the game of buying Air Jordans and wearing the cool shoes and keeping up with everybody. I just didn't. I couldn't sit still. It's not attention deficit disorder or anything like that. I'm not geared to sit in a building for 8 hours a day for years on end. School just wasn't fun to me. I liked the people. I liked being around school. So that kind of started my I won't say bad choices, but I just made choices looking back on it and going, man, if I just would have sat in school for 8 hours and concentrated and got good grades and not got into fights and not got into arguments with people that I didn't like and just focused on school, I'd be in a better position. I go back and forth on it. So for me, I got a GED, left school early, moved out to Boulder, Colorado, and worked at Mountain Sports, which isn't there anymore. They got pushed out by some of the big box stores, but they used to on Pearl Street and got a job tuning skis and, working. Did the same thing in Seattle for a while, but did that kayaking, skiing, just eating Cheetos and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, being broke and driving an old beat up Volkswagen and working at ski shops. And that pushed on until 9/11 happened. 9/11 for me was, as for everybody else in the country, was, kind of a turning point for a lot of things. I was 4th generation military. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Army. His dad was in, the military in Germany. But 9/11 for me, that was my choice. My siblings are all, professionals, attorneys, accountants, and have, followed that path of college, went to, higher education after that. And it just didn't suit me. So, me joining the military was twofold. One, I don't think there's a better time to have joined them. Well, there's been better times and times like that in history where it was, hey, this is a good time to join the military. But I'll also say, and I made a post about it last week on Instagram, that I also joined the military because I was broke and, tired of eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and Cheetos. And the military for me, the 18 X-ray program came up, so I was able to go right into special forces. Well, basic infantry, airborne. As long as you keep passing the gates, you can, get a chance at special forces assessment selection. And I was successful with that, became an 18 Delta and went straight out to Okinawa with 1st Special Forces Group and stayed out there for quite a while. Did two almost 3 tours out there. But again, the military for me, I'd love to have that bravado and say, man, I joined because I always want there. That's probably 80% of it. There was 20% of it was like, oh shit, what am I going to do with my life? And I'm tired of being fucking broke all the time. Excuse the language. But, it was the military immediately sent me, give you a haircut, give you food. They gave me clothes to wear. They gave me a clothing allowance and took care of me, sent me to arguably the greatest trauma med course there's ever been with the 18 Delta course. So that was it. And then, I got lucky, went out to Okinawa, which is a forward deployed special forces battalion that houses the Commanders in Extremis Force, or a SIF company, which every special forces group has one. And I'm a little outdated now, but I believe 10th group now has 2 of them. If I'm correct, I think they stood up a second.
Really?
I'm not 100% correct, but I heard that. But which is a unit that specifically focuses on direct action, hostage rescue, and some other stuff. And was lucky enough to be selected to go down the hall to the SIF company and be a medic there first. And I came on as a medic. I was average shooter at best, and it's a shooting company. Mm-hmm. It spends a lot of time focused on assaulting and shooting and sniper operations. But, I came down to be a medic, and that was my foot in the door, and then got to go to Sephardic and some of the other special forces shooting schools and got to work on some really good teams there and got some great trips to Iraq and the Philippines. So couldn't be more happy about that. And about 10 years in, transitioned out of the military. I'd never joined the military to stay in for 25 years. And again, I don't think my constitution would have allowed me to do that. I'm just not geared that way. There's so many things I want to do in this world, and I have all the respect in the world for guys that go in for 25, 30 years and make it a career. For me, it just wasn't, it wasn't a choice for several reasons. But that transition out was not an easy one. I was med boarded out. I developed seizures and epilepsy in 2005. Right after I got to Okinawa, and through Navy doctors and neurologists, I was able to stay on meds and deployed. And they took it all the way to Walter Reed, to the neurosurgeon conference, and said, hey, can this guy be on these meds and deploy? And was able to deploy to Iraq 3 times on anti-seizure meds. So that caught up with me, And again, epilepsy and seizures is not something, they were under control, but it's not something that you can control 100%. So for me, it caught up with me and ended up shortening my military career. I would have stayed in longer. I wouldn't have done 25 years, but it shortened my career, and I transitioned at a time when I think I was at my peak for my career. I had no desires to go to a unit above that, and don't know if I would have fared well there again. Just there's a certain type of person that goes to those units. I was very happy with being in the SIF and being in 1st Special Forces Group, and transition out of the military was kind of it was 100 miles an hour. It happened real fast, and transitioned out.
Well, did you have a plan when you were transitioning? So no, you were like
zero
getting out. Did you know? I mean, did you even know where you're gonna live?
Nope. I had zero clue. All this stuff happened super, super fast, and at the time I was dating, who's now my wife, Candace, and she had been working at Texas Christian University as one of the IT directors there, and I had no desire if I was going to move back to the United States. I even told her, I said, man, if I'm moving back, it's got to be a mountain state. Like, I just need that in my life. I don't care if we're broke. Quality of life to me is more important than anything else. And 7 years later, we just moved from Texas to the mountains. So
right.
I followed, back to Texas. She had a really good job at Texas Christian University, and it gave me a chance to come back. I went to school there for a couple years, and actually, oddly enough, I didn't finish the 4 years at TCU, but my 2 years there, my GPA is 3.7, and I was killing it. And that was a pre-med course, biology, any biology, chemistry. I did really well at college, and I accredit that to the 18 Delta course, which people always ask me, what's the hardest thing you did in the Army? And they, I think some people that just don't know they expect some answer of, oh, going to war, it was horrible, and this, that, and the other thing, and getting my head shaved and being told what to do all the time, and it wasn't. The hardest thing for me was the 18 Delta course, like hands down, was 10 times harder than anything else that I did in the military, because it's, 192 exams, both hands-on and written, that you take in a 13-month time period.
Wow.
At least it was when I went through. It might change more or less now, but
it's down to 70 now.
But I had no plan. But I had developed through Special Forces and good mentors and good captains and good team sergeants and good guys to my left and right, developed at least some skills that kept me able to concentrate on school and do the work when I got to TCU. But again, there was just more for me, and everybody sitting at the table here, and most of the people you have on the show, I think, have the same, it's not a disease, but I call it a disease, and that entrepreneurial, that creative process of making things that other people are interested in it's addicting. And it's not just a money thing, but just that process. And I think I've always had that. The Army doesn't help you. No, the transition stuff. And I think the civilians out there in Japan and in the Army elsewhere try really hard to help people transition. But the meetings and stuff I went to were just horrible. It was like, hey, here, you're going to get out. You need to do this, this, and this. But if somebody like you, Evan, or JT, or Matt Best would have given me a class as a Special Forces guy leaving and said, all right, we have 1 hour and we have $1,500. Let me show you how to create an LLC and a product and start and do trademark searches and start your own company. It'll cost you about $3,000, which the Army pays you good money before you leave. I don't think anybody leaves the Army broke, and if you do, you're pretty fucking dumb.
Right.
But if somebody would have given a class like that, specifically like somebody like you, Evan, were to come in and say, all right, we got $3,000 to work with. You all have that in your checking account. Yes, I do. All right, I'm going to teach you how to make a business, and you can sell holsters, med equipment, T-shirts, hats, coffee, whatever it is, bedazzled Croc shoes. Doesn't matter. You pick anything in the world. And I looked at JT when I said that.
Yeah.
What, Croc shoes?
Yeah. But I had zero plans. Like that was the last thing I wanted to do at the time. I was already teed up to go on another trip to Iraq with a really good team and a really good company. I had no plans to leave the military as soon as I did. So I had no plans. I had zero. I had a bunch of money in the bank because I was good with my money. My credit score was 760. I was ready to go. But that's not enough, you know.
Right.
It's, you know, so that was, for me, my first job actually post-military was as a zookeeper and a vet tech at the Fort Worth Zoo, which I think part of that, I have a love for animals, always have, but another part of that was I could work in an area with people that were, I won't say hippie, but it was the exact opposite from the military, and I think that's what I needed.
Right.
Mentally, it was, man, I was just like, I've made some mistakes, I've made some choices, I'm now in this position. Could I have done this better, that better, this better? Could I have not pushed so hard and just, you know, stayed in a certain position or stayed on a certain plane in the military and not pushed it so hard? So for me, going to work at the zoo was, you know, it was the exact opposite of what I just came from. Mm-hmm. And I think I needed that.
You were a zookeeper.
Yeah, zookeeper.
What is this? That's your official title.
Yeah, I was
zookeeper
and vet tech at the Fort Worth Zoo, which has a really, really one of the best animal hospitals in the country.
Bert the zookeeper.
It was doing everything. You know, every animal at a zoo goes through the animal hospital to get in quarantine if they come from another zoo. So you got to watch all the animals. So it was a lot of monitoring animals and then doing med procedures, because every animal at a zoo is just like we are. They have to get an annual checkup. It doesn't matter if it's a rainforest frog that'll fit on the tip of your pinky, or if it's an elephant, they all have to come through and get an annual exam at every zoo. So, so the next thing, I got a call from a guy that was that I was on a team with and deployed with in Okinawa and Charlie Company, and Garrett gave me a call and said he was working for an endurance event company, and that was GoRuck, which, you know, I think a lot of people have heard about. GoRuck, they do endurance events, and, you know, the founder of the company, Jason, has done a good thing. He's, you know, at any given time, they probably have 100, you know, vets working contract for him doing these endurance events around the country, and did that. And that was, you know, I did that for about 3 years, but
3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
For 3 years. And Tyler Gray, who I think you guys are going to have on the show, that's where Tyler and I met, and, you know, still have made some great friendships there. But it was that dynamic that I think we see a lot. You get 100 A-type personalities that are all from different special operations branches, all working at the same place, all vying for events and all. It was another one that was a great job for me, great experience, but pretty difficult. We're pretty rough on each other as vets, and I've been part of that problem as well. Right. You know, I say it all the time. I've never been treated worse in my life than by other vets.
Right.
But I've also never been treated better in my life than by other vets. So that was, you know, working there, and from there it was, you know, kind of that standard. We've seen it a lot. Guys will work 1099. They'll do contract work for somebody else, or they'll go to work for somebody else's company, not just a vet, but anybody's company. And I think at some point, guys that are from the special operations community or have this, if you have that personality that's going to push you into special operations, I think you also have that personality where you're only going to work for other people for so long.
Right.
And then you're going to go, man, I'm making somebody else, I'm making somebody else a lot of money, and they're paying me a lot of money and treating me really well, but I think there's more here for me. I could be doing more for my family, for the charities and causes I believe in, for the people that I believe in, and for what I believe in. And that was, you know, Tyler and I battle with that nonstop, not just there, but just since I've known Tyler, you know, that battle of, you know, you call each other every day and say, hey, you know, it would be a good idea. You know, it would be a cool company or a good idea. And I think we as a group probably do that 50 times a day. And I don't just mean the people on this podcast or Tyler. I think spec ops vets in general, I don't know how many conversations I hear when I'm around a bunch of guys that run teams where it's like, you know, it'd be a great idea.
Right.
And the next question is, let's do it. You know, like, how do we do it? And I think that's where it stops for most guys. They're like, oh shit, that's a lot of work. You know, like setting up a company and getting an attorney and doing trademark stuff and having to deal with vendors, and, you know, guys will get into the thought process and then go, oh shit, this is a lot of fucking work. Oh, and by the way, I have to send out packages from customers and answer customer service emails 24 hours a day. And you guys have both been a part of this. It's a monster. Yep. It consumes your life. It consumes your family. It consumes everything you do if you really want to, you know, push forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll piggyback on that, which is like you have to humble yourself on the altar of business, and you have to be willing to answer the customer service tickets. You have to be willing to tape the box. You have to be willing to do every job in the company because nobody else is going to do it. So a lot of soft guys will come out. And I mean, arguably, I was probably in a very prestigious area of the United States government and as a paramilitary contractor. And I transitioned and knew that I wasn't going to go back to that life. Like, it wasn't going back to that life. And I didn't give a fuck what it was that I had to do, how dirty my hands had to get, like, how long do I have to sit on my knees? It doesn't fucking matter because I'm going to do it, right? And I don't think a lot of, I mean, we interface with so many different vets, and, you know, a lot of guys will, let's go on there when I talk about, hey, this is a cool opportunity. Why don't we do this thing together? It's like, well, how much do I get paid? It's like the first thing they want to ask, like, how much do I make? It's like, well, no, I mean, that's not, shouldn't be your first question, you know?
No, because as you know, the answer is, well, for the first 2 years, not a fucking dime.
Yeah.
You're not going to make anything. You know, the first 2 years of your life, if you're lucky, you might be able to pay yourself after a year. But the reality of it is, every dime you pay yourself is going to stunt the growth of your company.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be the first guy to tell you the lowest I've ever been in my life was a year, and probably I would say it was probably about a year after I started it. I didn't have any cash flow. I didn't have any money. I sat in my garage. I rolled the fucking garage down. I sat on a Pelican case and was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to be the first. I'm not going to be the guy that won't admit it, man. I cried as a man going, I have a family. And the only thing that fucking like made me just like suck it up. And that was the last time. I was like, the last time I'm ever going to do this. And it was a business partner that was affecting what was going on with me. It's like back in the twist rate days. And the guy was a fucking complete moron. And I was like, I'm never going to allow another person to affect my success ever again. I will never put the fucking success of me and my family in the hands of idiots ever again.
Well, and you and I have had that conversation. Yeah. If you are a true entrepreneur and you really want to own your own business, and I don't know anybody that doesn't have stories like that. And I've got one as well. Started a company, it just didn't work out. I didn't get along with my business partners, and it was the same situation. Candace and I just didn't get along with our business partners, right. And we sat down and had the same conversation. We're like, hey, this is not fun. Like, we are now letting people who don't live in this house and aren't putting in the effort dictate what our life is going to be like. And it was like, done. See ya, out. Haven't talked to him in 2 years. Probably never talked to him again. Don't care.
Same.
And it's
same exactly. I had Black Rifle kind of rolling a little bit. I still had this other company, and I cut them out of my life. And I just said, I have to be sociopathic with cutting every distraction and influence away from my success. I have to cut it away like it's cancer with a fucking scalpel. And
he gave me that speech 3 weeks ago.
I did.
I followed it.
Well,
and now I'm fucking loving it.
And that's it. And you know, and to be fair, you know, there's three sides of every story. My story, their story, and the real. Again, they probably feel the same way that they cut me out, but that's business. And it's, you know, I have people tell me all the time, like this, that, and the other thing about, oh, did you hear that company has this problem or that problem? I'm like, that's not a big problem. Like, if you, that is not a big problem. I promise you, them not agreeing with each other or somebody making a shitty comment on social media about your company, that's not a problem. That's business. And that's going to happen whether you're IBM, Ford, or Black Rifle Coffee, or you're our little tiny company, Bison Union. Like, that stuff is going to happen, and if you let that stuff dictate your life and bother you, then you're already screwed. Like, you're already behind the curve. And I keep saying it, keep your circle small and tight, and you know, that's it for us. But you know, it's easy to start a business. It is not easy to grow one without outside help. And I think, Evan, you're in the same boat for the majority of the first half of your, you know, business. That was all your own money. And for us, it was, it was only $1,700 total to start Peacemaker, which has now become Bison Union. But again, when you tell that story of, hey, I started my company with $1,700 and I'm not that smart, anybody can do it. If they're willing to tape boxes, answer emails, watch social media 20 hours a day, because when somebody comments, hey, can I get this or that, or you guys messed up my order, to be able to answer them back and go, sorry, we will fix this right now. It's a full-time job for 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is when I say full-time, it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And people will look at Candace and I, we took a trip to Turks and Caicos, it was our first vacation ever together. And people made comments like, how do you run a business and you're supposedly giving money back to charity and you're on vacation? You know what we did on vacation in the Turks and Caicos?
You worked.
We worked
nonstop.
Mm-hmm. And that's our lives. We don't ever, even when we try and get together and say, hey, let's go play ping pong and not talk about work.
It doesn't happen.
Right now we talk about work because it affects so many other people down to the end line, which is the customer. And if you're not, it's...
Yeah, and that's the thing that people don't understand. I don't want to totally off-rail the conversation. They don't understand. I left private military contracting in 2014. Roughly, actually 13, and it was part-time, 14, right? And I didn't pay myself a dime out of my company. And I'll tell you my first year's numbers. We made $1.37 million my first year in business with limited help. Now JT did help, but it was me fucking roasting coffee, taping boxes, doing customer service. I did not take one dime.
Shipping out of the living room.
Shipping out of my basement. I didn't take one dime out of the company. We made $1.37 million. It was more money that I'd ever seen come through a bank account. And I couldn't take a dime because I knew that if I took a dime and put it in my pocket, it was going to be lost energy and inertia to my future. And I was fucking starving, man. It was back to...
Not a single one of us started a paycheck until November of 2016.
So we're super empathetic, and people always ask me, and same thing, and that's where we launched down this conversation.
So we're at our anniversary, right?
Yeah. Vets are always asking me, what is it? What is it? And I'm not saying it for me. I'm not trying to monopolize your words, but you said it, which is you absolutely have to fucking sacrifice your ego. You have to chop your ego completely away and say, this is about the success of something greater than whether or not people think I'm a fucking badass. And that's that. I'm running down that rabbit hole that you actually opened. So
well, and that's it. And JT was there too. We were at dinner. I think Jack was in town too. We were at dinner, and Kenny Garrett was here.
Yeah, Kenny.
And we were at dinner, and Kenny started talking about military stories, and you and I looked at you, and I said, I think I've been with Evan every day, every other day for 6 months, and JT and Matt, and this is the first time we had talked about the military because everything has been about business and business and business and business since I met you guys, which is awesome. But it's a sacrifice, and I have vets. The other one that I think hits close to home here is, I get text all the time right now going, man, did you see this company on Instagram? They're copying your hats. Or did you see this comment somebody made about you guys using a buffalo on the flag and disgracing the flag because by flag code law you're not. That's the kind of stuff that will keep you up at night if you let it. And I know you go through the same thing because you take it personally. The minute somebody makes a negative comment about our company, and I 5 years ago, I would have gotten mad and say, hey, you know what? How about you go find a good 10 feet of space and do a somersault so you can pull your head out of your ass because you're an idiot. I don't do that anymore. It's kill them with kindness, and which has worked a lot better for me because, as you know, I'm a bit of an asshole, but I'm learning now that, again, as a business owner, you have to be able to weather those storms and let that stuff roll off your back and kill people with kindness, because being angry and ugly.
In the last year, we have become hypersensitive and more kind of effective when we pick and choose what not to waste time on.
That's it. Or pick and choose how you're going to sleep at night for me, because that's the kind of stuff that I would lay in bed at night and stare at the ceiling like, oh man, this guy didn't like my hat. Like we sent this guy a hat and he was pissed off because it didn't fit right, or now it's like, hey, let's just fix the problem and move on. But again, nobody tells you about that stuff when you're starting a business. Nobody tells you when your vendors are going to change their prices, or your vendors are going to overextend themselves and say, oh, you need 10,000 hats in the next 4 months. We can get them done for you. And then you go to order your hats and pay, and you've got everything set up to do that. And they say, oh, by the way, those 6 colors are back ordered and you can't buy that one again after you've already made patches for them. And you've got, anyway, I'm not complaining, but I just specifically, if the vets that are listening to this that get out, starting a business is easy, but you have to, don't be afraid to ask for help. And don't be afraid to ask for help. And also know that your days of partying and having fun and enjoying life are, if you really, really, really want it to work, are gone. It's going to consume your life. Gone. And then, by the way, hire some employees, and their problems then become your problems, which is the way America should be. You should take care of the people that work for you, but their problems then become your problems.
But I mean, we've even experienced, we've overtaken care of people, and they still bit us in the ass.
But that's just human nature. I do want to get back to like when you started Peacemaker. So that I think that's a really good. I want to get back in there.
Yep.
You started Peacemaker when?
So Peacemaker started in late 2015. The concept for it came up. I was just done.
Right.
That the company that we started that did med training, med equipment just didn't work. Partly on my fault, partly on my business partners. We just didn't get along. It didn't work, and
which, by the way, I will put this out. Every person that has been in business longer than, let's say, 2 years has had relationship issues with business partners. Business partner relationships, and I will put this out so everybody understands this. You cannot judge a business based on previous partnerships. That's like trying to judge a man based on his previous wives, right? And I just want to put that out, which is like everybody thinks, well, you've had all these business partnerships and, oh, did I hear that about this guy and this guy and this guy? And it's like, okay, yeah, but people just don't get along. Like that shit is just absolutely real. It is a relationship that involves money, and not only money, but creative vision and
intellectual
mission
property
and intellectual property. It's more complicated than a marriage at times. And business partnerships will fold, but you can't actually judge a person based on their previous partnerships. You can't, because that might be a great guy that made a series of mistakes because they were a novice. He might be a great fucking guy, but he's just not good with that other guy, as a business partner.
Or that person just might have been in a bad place in their life for 6 months or a year and just having some issues. Like you have the human you have to put that factor in.
You have to.
And it's, that hit me pretty hard. It was not, again, you go back to questioning, was this me or was this them? Was, how did this get so messed up so fast when it was such a good idea? So for me, I was lucky, and you guys know Candace. She works for you guys now. Candace works at Black Rifle directly for Evan, Matt, and JT on the executive team. You guys know how hard she works. So I was blessed with having Candace had her job at TCU, which paid well. TCU was a very good place for Candace to work. Takes care of the families that work there. So that for me gave me the opportunity. It was a Tuesday afternoon. It was a Tuesday. And I'd been in Texas for years now and driven by 100 ranches. For me, I was born 150 years too late. Like I'm seriously convinced of it. And I would go back in time. If I could go back to 1850 and only live for 40 years, I would probably make that trade if I could take my wife with me. I'm fascinated, always have been, with that time period. So for me, the two things I wanted to be as a kid were an Army, a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL, and then a cowboy. And I'd already done the Green Beret thing. So it was making that, I took a gamble and told my wife, I said, hey, what are your thoughts on me just working on a ranch, even if it's for free, just to try and get on a ranch? And she was both thumbs up. Do it. Do it. We can take this risk and do it for 6 months, see if it works out. That's when I met Buster.
Right.
Through a friend of ours, got a job on a ranch, called a buddy of mine, Mike McDaniel, who's the deputy sheriff of Tarrant County, and said, hey, do you know anybody that owns a ranch? He works in the livestock division. He hooked me up with, I called him on a Tuesday afternoon. He called me back about an hour later, and he said, all right, here's the guy. Buster Fryerson's the guy, and I'm just telling you right now, he's the real deal. Like, he is the real deal working ranch cowboy. Here's his number, call. And the minute I called Buster, I hung up the phone and called Buster immediately, and it was like, again, they didn't have phones back then, but I can only imagine what it would be like calling somebody in the 1850s. You guys have met Buster. So Buster said, come on out. The ranch is only about 15 minutes from Fort Worth. It's one of the original 4 ranches in Fort Worth. And walk out, and sure as shit, this 6-foot tall cowboy, with spurs on and a hat, looked like he'd been riding horses all day, comes walking off a traditional ranch porch and greets me, and that was that. Right away meeting Buster, you can just tell when you meet somebody, their character, and this guy from the get-go, it was just, it was the change that I needed in my life at the time as a veteran transition out of the military and trying to find their place in this country. And that's not a pity story. I don't want to sound like a victim. I've made some pretty shitty choices in my every choice I've made has led to the consequences that have put me right here in this seat with you guys, some good, some bad. I don't want to sound like a victim or pull the pity veteran card, because that's not the case. But I was in a bad spot. Buster offered me a job. He said, hey, I don't care who you are, special forces, this, that, and the other thing. I don't care what your background is. Thanks for your service. But everybody that works here starts out at $10 an hour on my ranch, and it starts at sunrise and finishes when the sun goes down. And he was not messing around. Like, that was it. I came back the next day and started working on a ranch for Buster. Got off social media, just posted pictures of horses, and, just got off social media, stopped focusing on everything other than just coming to work that day and putting in a good, honest 10 to 12 hours of work every day for $10 an hour. Best decision I've ever made in my life, to include the military. Hands down, the best decision ever. To go work for somebody that it's just good old-fashioned hard work for a honest wage, and it's honest, simple work that's about as important as it can get in this country, if you ask me. Raising beef and cattle and produce and crops for America is pretty special. 1.5% of the American population signs up to defend our freedoms and liberty in the military, and then 1.5% of the country raises all the produce, or raises and grows all the produce and meat for this country. And I think both groups are heavily overshadowed by a lot of the drama and bullshit that goes on in this country right now. People tend to forget that the freedoms we have and the food we have on our table comes from people who are out there working for it. So, that's that for me, working for Buster. And Buster, we highlight Buster in all of our social media. I'd much rather have Buster. I don't need to be the face of anything. Buster is the perfect face for Bison Union, and the perfect lifestyle and the perfect person. But Buster, working with him, I'm a t-shirt, jeans, and hat guy, and all these companies are out there. And again, the veteran space, JT, you guys, Article 15, Evan, you'd already been doing it with Black Rifle, but that logical choice of looking at other veteran businesses and going, man, could I do this? And how do I do this without copying anybody else's shit?
Right.
And what can I do? And it all came back to the one answer of starting a brand that was my lifestyle and everything that I loved about America.
Right.
If you do that, then you can't be copying somebody else. Mm-hmm. If if it's coming from your heart, and that's what it was with Peacemaker. Buster and I, literally on the back of a ranch, dusty, dirty ranch truck, started drawing logos and putting the flag out there. How can we make this patriotic? And that was the start of Peacemaker. And that was, when it really got going was January of last year, of 2016. That's when we incorporated the company and said, hey, we're going to do this. And we made 2 t-shirts, and I already had a little bit of a following on social media.
What shirts were they?
They were simple. They didn't even say Peacemaker on them. They just were a red shirt and a blue shirt that had our buffalo logo, our bison with the crossed arrows on it. And the first one was just a red shirt with a black buffalo and said "Peace through Strength" and had a flag on the back that said, that was it. And they had a flag on the sleeve, and super simple. But we also paid $15 a piece for those printed, which again, nobody tells you, hey, go print T-shirts. Now we pay we pay half that for a printed T-shirt because we do a lot of it with friends or in-house. But we launched those shirts, and again, I set up a Shopify. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I built a Shopify site, got all the logos, got everything done, worked with designers, and we launched those shirts on Shopify on, I think it was a Thursday night. It was a weird time. And again, nobody was there to say, hey, you need to do analytics and algorithms and check when to launch this, that, and the other thing. We had finished all the work, and it was time to launch, and it was like 8 or 9:30 on a Thursday night. So we launched the 2 shirts, and, there's that lag between your phone and you launching something on your computer or phone, and somebody's got to actually find your site, purchase, put it in the cart, do the credit card. So about 4 minutes went by and nothing happened. And I had set up notifications with a vibrate on my phone and was like, oh man, my palms were sweating. I was like, great. We just put, $2,500 worth of money into stuff that we probably can't afford right now. And Candace, of course, is totally relaxed and just like, okay, you're bugging me. Go, just be quiet, and people are going to buy shirts, I promise. And within a couple minutes, my phone literally vibrated off the coffee table, and we sold all 500 shirts in 37 minutes. And that was it.
That was great.
That was it. And it was, again, I think part of that was because I had a little bit of a following on social media, but I think the other part of it was people made a connection with, a brand that was a little bit different, that wasn't, just something they hadn't seen before. But that's how Peacemaker started.
And so up to this point, obviously I know these, but tell us kind of what you struggled with early on, what you're struggling with now, how you've overcome those things, if you've overcome them. Kind of tell the audience, I guess, what you've dealt with in startup phase and now.
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle was inventory and demand, and I think we had the demand off the get-go. The next one was inventory and doing velocities, and then the ever turbulent seas or skies of vendors, because when you're starting a company, like you started roasting coffee in your garage, and we started with T-shirt printing on a manual press with some guys that that had never, some of them were just starting themselves. And, you play that game of, like I said, paying $15 for a simple shirt with, 2 sides, two logos. That shirt should have been a third that cost. You just don't know.
Right.
But playing that game, I think the biggest thing for us was inventory and demand. And I said from the get-go that I didn't want to borrow a dime from anybody.
Right.
And I stood by that and was like, hey, this is going to be ours. I don't want anybody else involved. I want to, even if it fails, I want it to be my failure. But playing that game of finding, nobody tells you that. So for us, I didn't know that I could go straight to the T-shirt companies and source that stuff myself and buy my own shirts.
Right.
And then I know exactly what the price of my shirt is because I'm buying it from the company that manufactures it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big issue with us, was inventory and demand. It still is. You and I have talked about it many times. Like, it's inventory, demand. I think everything else has gone pretty smoothly. We've been lucky in the sense that we put out a design, we haven't had anything flop yet. And we put out stuff, but the message, I think, is a message that people want to hear right now. I'm not a designer. I just know what I like and what I like about this country. But I think, to go back to your question, for us, it's inventory and demand. Had we done it right, had I done it right, I would have taken a couple $100,000 from somebody I trust, and we would have just built the company and built that inventory right off the bat. So, that's it. We still only have a few employees in their contract 1099. That's going to change here pretty quick as we grow the company, but we haven't had any employee issues to deal with. Everybody we've brought on has been phenomenal. I don't think, we're still in our infancy phase.
Right.
It's a little long. We're coming up on in January, February will be at the 2 year mark.
So 3 more months.
Yeah,
basically.
3 more months will be at the 2 year mark. And I think we should be doing better. You and I, again, have had that conversation. We should probably be doing a lot better than we're doing, but we've also had 3 other jobs and TV shows and other shiny objects that have kept us from putting 100% effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and today, I mean, as it stands, what would you say looking forward? Is it still going to be your inventory and demand that going to be your big issue that you think you're going to run into, or
no?
what is it?
I think I don't know how much you want me to talk about moving forward, but it's no secret now that you and Matt Best are involved and are now owners of Bison Union, which was Peacemaker. I keep saying that because we're going through that transition, but
right.
The goal here is to create a brand that is a much larger brand than what Peacemaker is. Peacemaker was mine, and people keep asking me, why'd you change the name? And there's tons of companies out there that have Peacemaker involved, and for us it was it's when I came up with Peacemaker, Peacemaker was still a leftover piece of my military career, and
right.
It was mine. It was my vision, and it's very 1850s-ish and a lot of guns, and which is great. All that stuff is going to stay. But, 2 of the smartest words I've ever heard in my life are shared value. And I didn't understand what that meant. But, I've explained it a few times with this scenario. We have Australian Shepherd and Blue Heeler rescues. And I wanted to make a T-shirt with a buffalo and a dog on it because of, the buffalo for us is to me, is the greatest symbol of America you can get. It's a huge animal that's incredibly peaceful until it's time to not be peaceful anymore. And then it becomes one of the toughest animals, in North America. But I wanted to make a T-shirt with a buffalo and a dog on it. So I started doing my homework, and 2.7 million people own Australian Shepherds and Heelers in America. But there's 86.2 million people that own dogs. So
right.
Do we make an Australian Shepherd shirt that might reach 2.7 million people, or do you get that larger shared value and just make a dog shirt that connects with 86 million people? And that's what we did, and it's still our second best-selling shirt ever.
Wow.
And continues to be the one that we get asked more about, and it just says, be the person your dog thinks you are on the back of the shirt with a paw on an American flag. But that's, that to me, and that shared value now is Peacemaker. For those that have followed us, Peacemaker was mine. It was my vision. It was mine and Buster's, and Candace wasn't too involved in the design and creative process side. She's been the anchor on the back end of the business with the ops. But the question just became, man, if this many people are interested in Peacemaker at the vision where it is with me, let's bring on more people that are like us, that we enjoy working with, and let's go after more shared value and try and build a brand that every single person in America will go, I can identify with that. Obviously, it's going to be swayed towards my politics and the other partners involved, which is a little more red and conservative. But that's making that transition. But to answer your question, no, the reason we're changing our name is that we're going through some changes right now to bring on, more capital, more logistics, more people involved, more resources, and those resources are going to come from the team here at Black Rifle, which, is headed by Matt and Evan and JT on the creative and design side. You guys will be heavily involved in where we're going with this. So I don't think that's going to relieve the problems. And it goes back to the start of this conversation of business partners. You talk about not getting along with business partners, and this is the perfect example. I've known you guys for 1.5 years now, and I've never, ever, I've come to you with some rants and some arguments, but it's not been directed at you, Matt, or JT specifically. And that right there is more important than any amount of money on this planet. You can't quantify that with money. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be successful because we all work 24 hours a day, and I think we're pretty creative and we're loyal to our customers and always will be. But more importantly, it's a phenomenal group of people to work with.
Thank you.
And it's work. This should be fun. And myself, with the last business I was involved in, and even with this one, I've made it really difficult at times instead of just going, hey, can I get some advice from you for a minute because you've been in this same position? And that's what's happened in the last 6 months is, if, you know, for those of you that aren't following what's going on, I've been talking with Evan a lot, and Evan is a far better business person than I am. You know, hopefully someday I can join the ranks with him and consider myself a good business guy. But right now I'm in 2nd grade and I still have 10 more grades to go to graduate in business. And we're bringing on.
I have a little work depression right now.
Yeah.
You know, wait, me and Matt, you know, left an hour and a half ago to go back to my place real quick because I was showing him the options to color the new music video.
Right.
Takes about 2 hours to cut it up, to prep it, to color. As soon as I click the mouse button, crashed.
Oh.
So and I didn't save it. So now I know, like, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going back to redo 2 hours of my life that was done that I lost.
Yeah, and that's it. I don't know how many times we've batched stuff up to create shipping labels, and then you go to print them, and there's no paper in the printer, or there's no labels in the printer, and you got to reboot, or your label printer dies, and then you got to go back, and like, that's it. Like, that's a perfect example of, you know, it never, ever, ever, ever stops, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
Evan.
it
Like,
does.
I don't know
I
how
think,
much, you know, I don't want to get too far into specifics because we've got a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to be putting some news out and
we'll have to
launching
do
stuff.
another
we'll do
continuation
updates. You know, I think that, you know, we constantly strive here, whether it's, you know, Black Rifle Coffee or Black Hearted or Drinking Bros. You know, people need to understand, like, this whole family dynamic that we have in a way that I think it is important, which is, you know, guys, we meaning everybody here at the table, we take an interest in, you know, we really do bend over to help each other in a way that I think is, people don't do that in the business world. And everybody talks to me sometimes about that. They're like, man, we don't see shit like this. Like, you guys have like 3 or 4 other companies underneath your roof. And I'm like, yeah, but there's constantly good ideas flowing out of everybody. And if guys go off and be a success, I think that's fucking great. I think they should go off and, you know, well, Tyler just walked through here, one of the guys in customer service. He's like, yeah, he was talking about his side hustle. You know, he's like, I've got to, you know, I've been doing some stuff with my side hustle. I'm like, go get it, man. Do it. You know, transitioning out of the mill, finding something that you're passionate about. And sometimes, you know, it is. Sometimes you got to take and not even like that's a bad thing. Sometimes it requires $10 an hour, 12 hours a day, in the beating sun, just to remind yourself, oh, that's right, I'm not the fucking coolest dude on the goddamn planet. And oh, that's right, like, thank you for your service. That's all anybody owes you. And they don't actually owe you that. The only thing that they don't.
And again, I'll probably get beat up by people for saying it, but you enlisted. Like,
yeah, you
enlisted and you got your rent paid. You got sent to sexy schools. You got schools that you can use when you're out of the military. You got clothes. You got to travel around the world. Again, like, it's, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but the military is a pretty good deal for you if you really want a shot at America. Like, it is a pretty good starting point for somebody who's thinks that there's no other choices for them. And I'm not saying every shitbag in the world should go join the military, because that's not the case. For some people, it's just not the right life. But
yeah,
all anybody owes you is and they don't even owe you that. You know, you enlisted. I enlisted.
Volunteer.
Yes.
You said a very important word. And I think, like, I love your story, because I mean, you and I talk so much, and I think sometimes we get down, you know, with our blinders on and not being able to just go, that's right, what we've built here, we have so much in common, which is nobody gives a shit whether or not, you know, I had a green beanie or you had one, or all the cool things that I supposedly have done. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. And the only thing that really gets you through and will fucking get you through is by, like, and I've said it, I don't know, I think every episode maybe.
Yeah.
There's no secret to any of this.
No.
I love having guys like every guy on this show, and you'll hear a common theme. What does it take, Bert, to be a success?
Hard work.
That's right.
It's hard work, and you don't.
Hard
You don't
real work too, not fake work.
No, and you don't have to be a genius. Hard work, and then there's another little part of it, that integrity that comes in. And I've told this story 3 times. We do a lot of stuff at Peacemaker is based off of. We do lever action rifles and old 30-30s and 45-70s, and another friend of the family here, the Soft Fleet guys, Aaron Woolman from Soft Fleet, called me out of the blue and said, "Hey man, I got a custom rifle that I made. We're gonna, it's a lever action. I want to post some stuff. We want to do some content with it. Are you okay with that? Because I don't want to step on your toes." And that right there for me, magic. Like magic. That's how this community should be. That's how this business should be. Hey man, I want to do something that's like what you're doing. Are you okay with that? Or can I get your advice on it? Like that, not even necessary. Nobody needs to call me ever, but the fact that stuff happens, or it happens here, you and Matt say, "Hey, we want to do this. Is that cool?" Or I say, "Hey, everything we've ever done that mentions coffee, Evan, are you good with this?" Like just some mutual respect across the table, back and forth, so that it's a win-win for everybody involved. And that happens 100 times a day in this building. Like it really does. And I say it all the time. The first time I met you, you said, "Bert, my goal is not to have $100 million in the bank. It's to make 100 veterans like myself millionaires." And it's literally happening. And it's not about the money and being millionaires. It's about putting good products out and putting food on your table and employing other people and giving some money back to charities.
It's about freedom.
You took the words out of my mouth. The next thing was just, it's about earning your freedom.
Yep.
It is.
We say it all the time. I've got my freedom right now. Candace and I owe nothing to anybody except for the people in this building, and I've never been happier to owe anybody anything in my life.
Well, so, I think those are sound principles and takeaways. The integrity, and this is why it goes back to business partnerships. They fall apart, right? Business partnerships fall apart. Businesses make mistakes. They do. They ship out the wrong orders. They partner with, different partners, and those partners fade away. But ultimately, if you step into the office every day saying, "I'm trying to make something better to include my life, to include the lives of the people that work with you and around you, and I plan on going to work," meaning this is not going to be easy. I'm not in for an easy ride. I'm in to just roll up my sleeves and do the absolute best that I can, and I have to be prepared to starve doing it. And that's what I always told people. I was happy living out of a rucksack, I'm super happy living out of a backpack in the middle of the mountains. Like that's actually my preference. I have I'm the happiest when I have nothing except for my family. So the rest of this shit is gravy, dude, like on the end of it. But when I can step into the office and hang out with guys like Bert, guys like JT, guys like Matt, the people that work here, and we can create value in one another's lives, like that is the most amazing thing on the planet. It's freedom. Like we always say it, and people are like, you basically have to, I always say you can take a vow of poverty to be free, or you can take a vow of poverty to become wealthy enough to be free.
That's it. And we were down at the rodeo. We had our first big booth and show at the World Championship Ranch Rodeo, and talking to Buster, and Buster and I are just sitting there bullshitting, and it literally dawned on me that I'm working right now to make enough, just enough money. I don't need a lot. I'm working right now, and Candace is working right now to have just enough money that I can go back to working for Buster on a ranch for $10 an hour, and I'm not bullshitting. You guys know me. Like all I want to do is go back to working on a ranch for $10 an hour and not have to worry about where my food and my rent is going to be paid and where I'm getting money for food.
Yeah,
you've said the same thing to me 10 times. And
cabin.
Cabin in the mountains in Idaho, and raising your girls to be like you and your dad, outdoorsmen, outdoors women, whatever you want to call them. But that's the fact of the matter is we're not buying Ferraris and houses.
Nobody
on islands.
nobody
Like,
wants
we're just
that.
not,
Nobody wants that.
No.
Either.
And that's what's the beauty of this.
Happy
group.
with a mini bike.
Yeah, and it's just having a nice truck and enough money to go back and work on a ranch, a truck that's not going to break down. But that's freedom to me, and this group is the epitome of it, of helping each other out. And I hope this continues. I know it's going to with our group, but I hope more people get into this circle and more people see what's going on here, and more people realize that we're not competing against you.
No,
like, I want your brand. I don't care if you sell a hat with a flag. I want your brand to be as good as my brand, if not better. Just don't be a shitbag about it. You know, like just do the right thing. It's
awesome.
Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Episode back at it with the Launchpad podcast. Bert Kuntz. You can reach him at where's your IG, Bert?
Our IG right now is Bison Union, and then the Facebook is switching over to Bison Union. But you can find us both still at Peacemaker Trading, but our IG is Bison Union. And for those that follow the brand, we're still going to be selling Peacemaker stuff. We're still going to be selling all the same logos, all the same gear. We're just blowing this thing up. Evan, Matt, JT, the guys here are going to be on board. We're going to blow this up. And, I'm not going to bogart somebody else's brand, but, think Patagonia, Filson, all these lifestyle brands out there. That's what we're going for, but for our group of people. Yeah. For people that love doing what we like to do. So Bison Union.
JT, where can they find you?
JT Article 15 on Instagram and Facebook.
And I am Evan Hafer, or at Evan Hafer at Instagram.
The only Evan Hafer on Instagram.
The only one on Instagram. Yeah. So stay tuned. We're going to have Tyler Gray in the lineup. He's coming in. We've also got Mike Glover from Fieldcraft Survival. We have Jack Osborne coming in. So the one and the only. We've got a lot of shows lined up for everybody.
Awesome.
You are going to be hearing a lot from Black Hearted. Thanks.